Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Castro Valley Unified School District Board meeting, a special board meeting. The governing board will convene a public hearing to receive public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting area plans associated with the district's transition to a by-trustee area election system. We will now convene the public hearing to receive public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting area plans associated with the district's transition to a by-trustee area election system. Under California Education's Code Section 10010, the board must hold at least 2 public hearings prior to holding a public hearing to adopt a final trustee voting area plan. I will call this meeting to order. Do I have an approval of the agenda?
I'll approve it.
And I second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Trustee Howard,
Yes.
trustee Raymond.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
And I will vote yes, so the motion passes 4-0. For those of us joining us remotely, I will read our public comment instructions. The board respects and encourages the public to comment on matters on the board agenda and within the board's jurisdiction. The board fully supports civil discourse and requests that everyone respect each other and their point of view. Individuals who would like to address the board must complete a request to speak form via the Google form at www.cv.k12.ca.us/public comment/ and submit it prior to the start of the agenda item. At the discretion of the board president, speaker cards may be accepted after the start of the agenda item. Your name will be called and you will either come to the podium to speak or be unmuted during your turn and be allowed to make public comments. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted. Individual speakers are asked to limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes unless the board decides otherwise. There are up to 30 minutes of public comment allowed on each agenda item. With board consensus, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed. This meeting is being recorded to prepare the official minutes. To comply with the Brown Act, the board may listen to comments from the speakers under public comment, but can neither discuss nor take action on the issues presented. Given that, I will move us on to item 2, reports, discussion, and action items, and the public hearing is open.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, district staff, and community. I'm Jonathan Salt, the attorney helping the district with this transition. I'm joined by.
Hi, my name is Christopher Rashidian. Thank you for having me, members of the board and members of the staff. I am from Cooperative Strategies as your district tomographer.
Thanks. And so as you all know, the maps are out. So this is a kind of the next leg of the transition process, which I know is moving pretty quickly. So we're going to give a brief overview again and then walk through the maps, and then happy to field questions, comments, thoughts from the board and the community in the public hearing. And so we will just sort of take it from here. I guess if there's questions in the middle, we can do that, or if the board president prefers, we can wait till the end. Why we are doing this is because the CVRA says that if you have an at-large election system and that system impairs the ability of members of a protected class from influencing the outcome of an election or electing candidates of choice, that system might violate the CVRA. And the only safe harbor from a CVRA claim is to transition to a by-trustee area, sometimes called district-based election system, where the district will be divided into 5 roughly equal population areas, and a board member will be ultimately elected from each area only by the voters who reside in that same area. Doesn't impact anybody's current term, regardless of where you live, you serve out the remainder of your term at minimum. I'm going to hand it over to Chris to talk about the demographics, and we'll kind of jump back and forth.
Hi, everybody. So I wanted to just reemphasize the bottom portion of this table over here. There was a slight adjustment from the prior discussions that we had of about 200 people, just because there was a census block that was previously not captured. So that would just increase the overall distribution by about 40 people per trustee area or so. But again, just wanted to emphasize that this is how the population within the school district responded to the US Census about 3 years ago. And
I added this slide because I know there was some discussion at an earlier meeting about census blocks and their sizes, shapes, et cetera. So this is just sort of zoomed in, focus on kind of downtown Castro Valley, but the numbers in blue represent the population in each of those shapes. Each of those shapes is a census block. And so that's why when you see the maps, you can't draw perfectly square lines all the time. In some places you can, in others, you have kind of odd shapes that go up. That's fine because they're census blocks. And again, we can't split one because if say one of them is 400 people, we just arbitrarily draw a line in the middle. We don't know if that's really 200 and 200. And then we lose our sort of accountability and knowing how many people live where when we're drawing the line. So this is just kind of for everyone's information, these are the census block shapes and sizes in the sort of centralized portion of the district.
And again, going back to our prior discussions, this is just basically how the Asian population within the district have responded to the US Census as well with the 2015 to the 2019 CVAP as a rolling survey. And just to wanting to reemphasize on this, it's as a proportion, not as a number. So you may have 9 out of 10 living in one census blocks, hence the darker blue. You might have about 90 out of 1,000 living in another census block, hence the lighter blue, or even the non-colorized portion of the census blocks as well. Again, same methodology, but with the Hispanic Latino population within the district.
And so again, as we've discussed, the most important kind of baseline criteria is equal population across the trustee areas. Roughly 10,000 or so, I think it's 10,600 something per trustee area, with a variance that's permissible. But the reason being, and again, it's not about registered voters, it's about total people, just like when Congress has to redraw the lines every 10 years, it's about people, not necessarily, every person who is of voting age. So anyone who was 1 day old to 150 when the census came out, that's the population we use to get roughly equal population areas. Other factors include compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act. Interestingly enough, last week, the Supreme Court actually issued a decision that dealt with the Federal Voting Rights Act, where in Alabama, which has 7 congressional districts and a 27% African-American CVAP, there was really one majority African-American area. And then intentionally, according to how the ruling came out, other concentrations were diluted by having them split up so that the African-American population couldn't have a second majority. Now, here in the district, it's not possible for any particular minority to have a majority, but just interesting that this came out while we were doing this. So I wanted to just make sure everyone was aware. Other factors have to be geographically contiguous, communities of interest, compact, et cetera. So now let's go to the maps.
So this is the first map, and as you can see here, what this map tries to achieve is the lowest overall variance across the total population as a whole. And we have also notated the approximate location of where each trustee resides. And the sequencing, I would like to have Jonathan cover the sequencing portion of that real quick.
Sure. So there's 2 things that you have to decide on June 28th. The first is which map the district is going to adopt. The second thing, which we've sort of kind of kept in the background because it really wasn't relevant to the prior discussions, is the board sets the election sequencing. So for example, there's going to be 3 seats in 2024. There's going to be 2 seats in 2026. Which areas come open when? And so part of the map release also requires proposed sequencing be released so the public has a chance to comment on that as well. How we typically do that is we take where folks currently live and we use that as a base. So for example, any area that trustee Raymond or Howard is in is going to be a 2026 sequence, because otherwise you wouldn't want to make that a 2024 sequence, because that means there's going to be someone elected there in 2024 plus one or both of you. That means you're going to have open unrepresented areas elsewhere. So in each map, I've designated, but the board in theory can change this, 2 areas for 2026, 3 for 2024. There's other criteria as well. If there were, say, 2 open areas, you're supposed to pick the one that furthers the purpose of CVRA. So for example, one that maybe had the highest protected class CVAP population, but that's not an issue in any of these maps because of where everybody lives. And so when you see the sequencing, that's what we're talking about. So ultimately in a couple of weeks, when the board picks a map option, whether it's one of these 4 or a new one, the motion will be, I move to adopt map 30 with areas, for example, 1, 2, 3 in 2024 and areas 4 and 5 in 2026. And that'll be the 4-year cycles moving forward.
So again, as mentioned earlier, this one tries to achieve the lowest overall variance with 1% variance across all of the trustees, with the highest being the trustee area 1 and the lowest being trustee area number 3. And if you can go on to the next
So
slide.
when we talk about population variance,
Oh.
just because there's a lot of numbers on the chart. So right underneath the blue, there's population. And so that number across for each trustee area is how many people based on the census live in each trustee area in map 1. And so when you look at the number below it, that's how much above or below the perfect number each trustee area is. So for example, area 1 has 59 more people than the perfect number, whereas area 3 has 50 less than the perfect number. But it's all pretty dang close to the 10,617. So the variance overall is 1%. The district can go up to 10% and have it be presumed to be balanced. So there's not necessarily a benefit for it being 1% or 9%. Just wanted to be clear for what we're talking about when we mean variance.
Mhm. And if we take a look at the citizens by voting age population estimate, again, this is 2015 to 2019 rolling survey. The trustee area number 1 has the Asian plurality with the white at 37.4 and 39.7 respectively. And if you were to take into account the Hispanic Latino and the African American, you would have a 13.5 and 10.8% respectively. That increases the Asian, Hispanic Latino, and the African American voting power in these 2 trustee areas quite significantly.
District-wide, for example, the Hispanic Latinos voting age population is about 10%. So that population in particular is pretty dispersed across the district. So in this particular map, for example, in area 2, that number gets up to 13.5%. It's not a lot. It's 30% increase, right, compared to district-wide, but it's still only 3 points. The African-American population based on CVAP district-wide is 5.6. So it almost doubles in area 2 there. Again, not giant numbers, not going to have a giant impact on the election, but still increased power to elect a candidate of choice. And then district-wide, the Asian population CVAP was 25%. And so this map gets that number up to 37% in area 1, and then a little bit higher in some of the other ones.
Now, this is map number 2, which has moved the 2 trustees from one area to the trustee area 1. And if we were to take a look at the overall variance, it does increase from 1% to 6.4%, with the highest being at trustee area number 4 and the lowest being at trustee area number 5. And as mentioned before, the trustee area number 2 has the increased voting power for the Hispanic, Latino, and the African American population, roughly in line with the trustee or with the map proposition number 1. But the Asian population in this one has increased for trustee area number 3 at 44.4% at a plurality within trustee area number 3.
Which means that that's the largest group of any group in that particular area. So even though I don't think it's possible there can be a 50% of any particular protected class, in area 3 on this map, for example, the Asian population is the largest of any particular group, which is important.
Now, this would be map number 3, which details, again, another different scenario with the downtown central core region being split in half, and then the other three general areas just being partitioned off. And this one achieves approximately the same variance of 6.8%, with the highest being trustee area number 4 and the lowest being trustee area number 5. And again, this one has the same type of voting power given for the Asian in trustee area number 3, and the trustee area number 2 has the Hispanic, Latino, and African American for 14.1% and 12% respectively.
I just want to make one comment. I'm going to go back a lot of slides and come back. So on the CVAP map for the Asian population, I'm not sure I can do this without. But as you can see, kind of as you go from left to right on the bottom of the district in the center part of Castro Valley, all of a sudden you see that really dark blue kind of shape that after kind of the main part of Castro Valley, and then over still pretty dark in that area. So there is a significant concentration kind of right there and up as it kind of sprawls north and south from the main road there. A significant concentration that we really don't want to break up, because that would probably end up being ruled as the dilution challenge. So when you look at a lot of these maps, particularly 2, 3, and 4, that area is always kept together no matter what. And then, the more rural areas that follow along with it. So just wanted to point that out, that you're going to see that as a pattern here. That's why you end up with the 44%, 45%, et cetera. Sarah.
Sorry to bust in, just so I don't lose my train of thought with that one. You say you're not breaking that area up in 2, 3, and 4. Is it split in map 1?
And I just. No, I think it's together in map 1 too. I think the difference between, if you look at the kind of the top right map, which is the larger zoomed out map, the yellow area on map 1 extends kind of upwards and around. I think that's because it ends up being just about, perfect number. And I want to say that in the other maps, it doesn't reach up quite as far, and that keeps the concentration a little bit higher. So it was 37 on map 1, which was, about 10,600. I think on the other ones, it's around 10,300, which is permissible, but that adds 7 or 8 points to the CVAP, and it's still permissible. So I just wanted to point that out for why, as you'll see on a lot of the maps, kind of everything over, I can't, Canyon Road, I can't see the name of it off here from here, but everything over there to the east ends up generally staying together in most of them. And that's one of the reasons why. So right now we're on map 4.
I just want to go back to map 3 for a second. I mean, you said that trustee area 3 is a large concentration of Asian population, but I noticed that every other concentration area is majority white. So that was a little concerning to me. So scenario 3.
Yeah, so this is scenario 3. So in terms of citizen voting age population,
It feels like the other 4 trustee areas are very high concentration white, which takes away voting power from other groups.
the other 3 areas, 1, 4, and 5 are, because those are over 60%. Area 2 is 47%, so plurality Caucasian. And I think that's going to be a pattern. Essentially, kind of area 2 ends up having the highest concentration of Hispanic Latino population and the African American population on this map. And they sometimes have different numbers in the other maps, but essentially that area, same thing with area 3, that area has the highest concentration of Asian population. But it's not really a proportionality test. It's just really, if there are concentrations, we should keep.
Thank you for that.
So this would be map number 4. And as mentioned earlier, we do try to have the general downtown core region together with trustees areas 1 and 2. And trustee area 5 goes along the northwestern region of it. And trustee area number 4 goes along the northern region of the district and hugging around trustee area number 3. And if we take a look at the data, it does have a variance of 5.8%, with the highest being trustee area number 5 and the lowest being trustee area number 1 at 2.5% and negative 3.4% respectively. If we take a look at the citizen by voting age population estimates, again, it does have a trustee area number 2 and trustee area number 3 having approximately the same statistics for the percentage of populations as maps number 2, 2, and 3. As mentioned earlier, with the plurality given to these demographics with comparison of the maps on this slide, just for a major comparison.
Let me try to sort of preempt some potential questions. I'm going to go back and pick the closest map here, which is map 4, just to talk about sequencing and kind of what these things mean. So area 1 is yellow in every map. And so in area 1, trustee Adams lives. And so the Adams, in theory, if the board picks this map, for example, and picks the sequencing, would be eligible along with any other candidate from area 1 to run for election in 2024. Same thing with the area 2 green area with trustee Whitaker. Same thing with trustee area 5 for trustee Kuziak, who's not here. There is nobody who lives in area 3, which is red, but that area would be because of sort of the other sequencing, that area would essentially remain open until 2026 because there's nobody to fill it. And in the blue area, area 4, trustees Raymond and Howard live in the same area. They both have term till 2026. So in 2026, that area will be open for election for either of them and anybody else who wants to run. That essentially allows everybody to be able to run again if they wanted to, in theory, just looking at this map. That's not the case on every map. And so I'm going to just jump to a different one as an example. Map 1, trustees Howard and Kuziak are paired together, but they're on different election cycles. And so because trustee Howard lives in that area, and that area wouldn't be open for election until 2026, trustee Kuziak would finish his term and then wouldn't be able to run again unless he moved until that seat was open in 2026. And so as a corollary, in this area, the open area is the yellow area, area 1. That area would be open in 2024. And so at the 2024 election, every area would have somebody living in it. That's how the sequencing works. I just wanted to use it as an example. Yes.
Where we live, however, shouldn't be relevant at all to the map that we draw, correct?
It is allowed to be relevant. You just can't draw a line specifically to go, oh, let's make sure that this person has their own area, right? That's gerrymandering.
Well, of
Where
course,
you live is relevant for the sequencing.
for the sequencing, yes, but in terms of picking one of these maps, that should not necessarily be our concern right now.
Each board member owes a duty to the entire district to pick the best thing that makes sense for the district.
Yes.
And so that's where I will leave that. But yes, the reason that we want to know where everybody lives, though, is because we don't want to arbitrarily pick sequencing and then ending up having 3 areas that no one lives in till 2026 or something like that. That would cause a problem, where 3 years from now, you're still going to have 60 or 40% of your district with nobody living in it as a trustee. And so that's why we look at where everybody.
Sure. So I just wanted to add that I raised that as a point / question because in talking with, neighbors, friends, et cetera, about constituents, about these potential maps, that is one thing that's been brought up with me, which is, and specifically is like, why are your names on the map? Like, why should we know where you are, in conjunction with drawing these maps?
Well, the other part of that is for transparency, right? If we didn't put your names on the map, folks might think, oh, you drew this line here because there's probably a trustee there and you're trying to sneak them into their own area.
Sure.
To show everybody where everyone lives, show that's not the case. In fact, in every map, there's at least one pairing. That's why it's there.
Got it. Thank you.
I'll also add that because we run for office, our addresses are already public knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say it's
Fun-
really
fun
common for
stuff.
these kind of maps to have the location of the trustees on them for multiple purposes that I've stated, but those are the reasons why. So if you didn't have them on, folks are going to complain that they're not there, and where does everyone live and what are you hiding? And if you have them on, it's why are they on here? Why are you looking at that? So that's the reason why for both. Again, overall, this does not change anywhere anyone goes to school. And it doesn't change the overall district boundaries. This only really changes who can run for board when and how those particular candidates get elected and when and by whom. Every board member elected under this new system still owes the due to the entire district. It's still one district with common goals and challenges. A little bit of a preview. We're going to be back here again in 2 nights for the second map public hearing. And then 2 weeks from then is the final map public hearing, which will be just like this. There, maybe there'll be additional map options depending upon the feedback tonight and Wednesday. But ultimately, there'll be a public hearing. The community can comment and provide their thoughts. And then the board will ultimately pick one of the options on the 28th. I'll note that if there are any changes to maps suggested tonight, they probably won't be ready for the 24th. That's okay. As long as they're ready by June 21st, you're allowed to vote on it. So, we're going to collect kind of feedback tonight and this week, and then get maps out by early next week if there are any additions or changes or revisions. For folks who are watching online and want to learn more, the district has a dedicated webpage or slot on its website devoted to this transition with new information that gets updated throughout the transition process. With that, we will field all of your questions. I'll just put up the map before here because that might be easiest, and field public comment. So thank you.
I just wanted to say that I thought map 2 looked a little more convoluted than the other maps. In that there's this little skinny, I wish I could like point to it, but the little skinny part in the yellow, as well as kind of like a skinny part in the blue area. And I think you explained today why you couldn't take, let's say, that chunk of downtown yellow and add like 5 Canyons and sort of Crow Canyon Road down to 5 Canyons or something and make that a district. Would that end up diluting the Asian vote?
I believe it would. We'll look at it and get back to you by Wednesday on an answer to that. But I think that just kind of creating, let's just pretend that we're looking at map 2 and if the yellow came across instead of up, we'll look at what that does to the CVAP for the Asian population in areas 1 and 3 on this map. But my suspicion is that it will drop it significantly and therefore diluting the voting power.
Okay, if you'd look at that, that would be nice.
Yes.
Me again. So, I will say that I share Trustee Adams' observation about map number 2. In fact, I'm like, this looks drawn a little strangely around the blue spot to me. And there may be very valid numerical reasons for that or data points that support it. But in this day and age, I think everyone's looking at maps and thinking, oh, is that gerrymandered or not? And obviously we don't want to do that or have any sort of, sorry, my words are failing me tonight. So I'll leave it at that. This is not really a comment about how the maps are drawn, but I did notice that there's a typo in one of our school names on the maps in Jensen Ranch. Can we fix that? Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. It looks to me like map number 1 has the lowest variance in population between the districts or trustee areas, which, personally appeals to me. I like the idea of, having, as even numbers as we can have, but I also like the idea of making sure that particular voting blocks are really as enhanced as we can make them, while still approaching this process in an ethical, legal manner. So I may need to look a little closer at some of the numbers behind the different maps. And this is a question kind of more for our administration. The maps themselves, when I've been following our posts like on social media, for instance, I see the notices of the meetings, but I haven't actually seen the maps being posted anywhere. And so I'm hoping that we can get more publicity of the maps themselves, whether it's on social media or posted in public places like the library on big posters. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think that'll help people be more aware and maybe show up next meeting and put their input in. So thank you very much.
Yeah, actually, Amy, if you want to add the library piece. Yeah,
And I did see it posted on social media as well from the website. So thank you for posting those. Social media.
Yeah. Yeah, so tell people to go to the link instead of the social media, because they were making, yeah, and it's interesting. We've said it so many times that this doesn't change. And we said it in all of our writing and posting, but a couple of people see it and then everyone else kind of.
So I will say that like I said, I missed all of that conversation, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know. But today I did make JPEGs of the maps and I did share them myself just because I needed people to see them and without having to click through lots of links to get to them. And people saw them and people started sharing thoughts with me. So I think that was nice because I've been asking people for weeks, share your thoughts with me, please. And I haven't gotten anything except why are we doing this? So that's it.
So again, for the public, it is all on our website. Click on the link. The maps are there. The maps are also at the library.
And we want to hear from you and the board wants to hear from you because ultimately 2 weeks from now, they're going to pick one of these maps. And so these meetings, or even not the meetings, you can email in your comments as well if you can't make it to a meeting. Share any thoughts you have about them. They'll be considered.
Is anyone actually online? Okay, thank you.
I do want to first off, thank you for adding the proposed sequencing. I think that gives us a little more flavor to help us understand how might that affect the district and the voting. I also I appreciate you adding the schools. I mean, because when I look at this and I look at, if we're going to be representing families, we want to make sure that, that it's spread across, that there are people in our communities going to schools and that we're not just representing one school. That's really helpful as well. And I will say, I'm the only board member that didn't come up with an area where I would have to potentially be competing with another board member. And I'm assuming that's based on the demographics within that area. You don't want to break out that area up, but I just felt like it was a little unfair to my fellow board members. So I just, you might consider thinking about how we might shake things up so where it's not just I'm the only one safe. I know that's a weird thing to say.
I'll let Chris talk about that. My guess, just from looking at the map, is the green area tends to be the smallest one in every map, which means that in that small area, there's a lot of people. And so it doesn't necessarily reach out all that far. From there is my best guess. And then I think what Redwood ends up being a divider in most of the lines, which is a pretty large street. So that's my guess for why, but.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure it's verbalized, that we talk about it because, I'm the only one and it's something that I noticed. That's all.
Actually, Jonathan is right. The green area is highly concentrated with a very high population within the district, along with the downtown central core region. So we couldn't take that part and put that with other areas, unfortunately, just the way that the cards fell.
And it also has the highest Hispanic, Latino, female population and African Americans.
Just wanted to say it
Yeah.
verbally out loud. Do we have any other board comments or questions before we go to public comment? Do we have any? Okay, I will just say, I will read the public comment language and I will read a comment from the public that was provided to us. So as part of the public hearing, members of the public may submit comments on the establishment of voting area boundaries for the new trustee voting areas that will be established as part of the district's transition from an at-large election system to a by-trustee area election system. Speakers will be given, well, I don't know if I have to go through that, 3 minutes to comment on this matter only. We've received one public comment that I have here with me today who would wish to address the subject during the public hearing. And so I will first of all, thank Chris Towles for your comment. Chris's comment was, looks like option 2 or 3 make the most sense in terms of not breaking up neighborhoods into different districts. Good luck, interesting stuff. Thank you, Chris. Well, with that, thank you for all of your comments, and we hope we get more from the public. This public hearing to receive public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting area plans is now closed.
Thank you guys for your time and work.
If there's any suggestions like Trustee Adams suggested, just looking at that, for example, at the next time, because next meeting on Wednesday, is really the last chance to make a change because the maps have to be posted 7 days before they can be selected, which is June 21st. So if there's a thought to, hey, like I really want to see this tried, we can try to make, a map 1A or whatever number it is that's based off of, or a map 5. We don't have to. I'd say about half the time that I've ever done these transitions, original maps are just one of those gets picked, and the other half the time there ends up being additional options. Doesn't mean that those do get picked or don't get picked, but just sometimes it just ends up being kind of whatever the community board likes, or they want to see something. They don't like the thought, but they want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Last chance is Wednesday to give that feedback.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate, I think the presentation with all the data was very, very helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both, and we'll see you in 2 days.
Sure.
We will now move on to item 2B, review and approve the amended and restated design, construction, and facility use agreement for Canyon Middle School Fields project.
Yes, so this is just, we're bringing it to you. It was already approved by HARD. Remember, we had talked about it. We had to go back and increase the funding because the cost was more. And we had a very productive meeting, and we all agreed and updated the contracts, and brought it to you for your consideration.
I'll move that we approve the contract.
I would love to second this if that's okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I would like to make a comment and thank the HARD board for their continued collaboration, not only at the board level, but staff level. Our staff has been working together very diligently to make this happen for the community. So just wanted to send some thank yous. Any further discussion? Trustee Howard, your vote.
Yes.
Trustee Raymond.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. The motion passes 4-0. Well, we wanted to thank you for joining us this Monday afternoon, and we hope you all have a lovely evening. And this closes the board meeting, and good night.